Hey there, Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to the Magical Experiments podcast. And today I have the amazing, wonderful, magical Arkadios Vasco here. Hopefully I got your name pronounced correct.
Yes, you did.
All right, great. I love it when I do that. And let's start first with a brief introduction and then get into geomantic magic and mysteries. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, previously I was a social worker. Been a long time practitioner, also in the craft as well. And I've sort of through my time as a social worker, I managed to fuse those both together to help get the best outcome for my clients. Recently, I've moved to Portugal. It has kind of tied in with some of my practice as well, and came out here looking for some more answers. And while I was in between, sort of stuck on a some of my research because there was a language gap between the Portuguese and the English, I took a break to start writing what I knew about geomancy, and that's kind of taken off a little bit and become its own little thing.
Excellent. So we have some people who've joined us live. And for people who join us live, one of the things that I always like to do is invite your comments and questions. So as we're going through and discussing this topic, if you have questions that you want to ask, just pop those in below and I will read them aloud. And that way everyone gets a chance to participate. All right. So first of all, that's cool that you've been in Portugal. I've visited there once myself, and I thought it was a really fascinating thing. Are you familiar with Monsanto?
Uh, Actually, it's right there.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah, I visited there. It's so freaking amazing, like the boulder town. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to talk about that a bit because I'm familiar with it. Um, but that's awesome. All right. So, well, let's talk a bit about geomancy. First of all, what is it? For people who don't know what geomancy is, they're probably wondering, like, what is geomancy? And people might have some vague ideas, but what's your answer for that?
Well, I first off start off saying you're probably more familiar with it than you think. It kind of is the Middle Eastern version of the Far Eastern practice of I Ching, where you
Hmm.
would take yarrow dowels and through the periods of sorting them, you would come up with something called a hexagram, and that would be interpreted as its form of divination. But with geomancy, you don't need the dowels at all. In fact, you can just do it with a stick and the dirt beneath your feet, or a pen and paper. Or if you have a series of coins, you can toss those. It is essentially channeling into the spirit of the earth. With the coins, you might not think it's tied to the earth, but those are metal. So it is tied to that as well. But it is tying into the earth's energies, and you're also your subconscious coming up with what they call the tetragrams, which are the basis of geomancy.
Hmm. Okay,
And you do,
excellent.
yeah.
So it sounds like a dowsing practice then, in some ways.
In a way, yeah. You'd say take the you take the your stick and you would tap a line in the dirt uh, of dots. You'd count those dots. If it's even, you would have a single dot if for your tetragram. If it's odd, you would have two. And that would be for the first line. That would be the fire line. You do that three more times to get your air line, your water line, and your earth line. And that would form your first tetragram.
Very cool. This kind of also brings into, for me, kind of the question of ley lines and power spot. So can we use geomancy to connect with the ley lines of the earth and with power spots?
I mean, your readings would definitely be amplified by that. Definitely. I mean, I've been to various ley lines throughout Sintra in Portugal. And although I was too new to geomancy to perform one there, I do look forward to going back there again to do some there as well.
So how
But
long
yeah,
have you hmm, go on,
oh,
you first.
ADHD is a thing. No, go ahead.
So how long have you been practicing geomancy and what got you into exploring geomancy? And I recognize too, for people who are watching this, that, you're relatively new to the practice. And yet I think,
Yes.
like, again, not everyone really even knows that much about it. So I think, getting the chance, like when I read your post, it's like, that sounds so cool. I have to interview him. So it was why I was
Uh,
like, all right, we're going to do this.
I am fairly new to it. I think it's been about a year, and I was always sort of an avid Kickstarter, especially in things dealing with the occult, divination, and practices like that. And I came across one by a man named James Eads, and he came up with this, the Geomantic Vision set, which it was basically a nice introduction to geomancy, but he used primarily coins and, of course, went a bit over the top with that. So you have the representation of all 16 of the tetragrams, as well as 4 coins used for the divination. That was kind of the opening point for me. Then I went into John Michael Greer's book as well. And it just sort of blossomed from there. Went into the fourth book of occult philosophy by Agrippa. Well, it's not technically by Agrippa, but it's attributed to him. Sort of a ghostwriter, we'll say, posthumous ghostwriter. But that's what got it started for me. So I started working on it as my own practice, and I've found that the results of this form of divination really spoke to me. They were more blunt, more honest. They provided more of a roadmap for what's going on in the world around you. Whereas tarot may be sort of the mystical woo-woo sister of divination, and Lenormand maybe, say, the gossipy neighbor. Uh, Geomancy is definitely going to be that, listen here, son, this is what's going on, and you need to address this. You need to clean up your house. This is what's going on around you. This is how you address it. This is what the momentum that's driving you forward is, and these are what the obstacles are. But if you do everything right, this is what the answer is going to be.
So in a very real sense, I mean, kind of when I think about tarot and oracle decks and stuff, which I've used a fair amount of, I mean, we're dealing with symbolic interpretations
Yes,
of
very much
of
so.
what we're doing. But with geomancy, what we're doing is we're tapping directly into the current of the earth. And
Yes,
so we're connecting with that for the purposes of seeing how that current interfaces with and connects with our own life energy. And
very much
it's
so.
essentially showing us where the blockages are in our own life energy in terms of being able to perceive the earth and connect with it in a meaningful and powerful way. Because I think, like, when I think about this, I think about this from the perspective of a qigong practitioner, which I've been doing for a long time. Like, you're uniting the energies of heaven and earth through man. That's the thing. And no, when I say the word man, I'm not talking about like the English word man. I mean, I'm literally saying there was a word that they used that described as man, and it had more to do with the idea of connecting to there was heaven and there's earth and then there's man, and man was basically the medium of the connection, like the essence, the form provided for the essence. It's kind of like that in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I was going through some of my feed, and there was this one individual who stated that the whole adage of as above, so below is a mistranslation from the
Mm.
original Arabic text, and is um, the above is as below, and the below is as above, meaning that there is a connectivity and a sort of duality that intermingles between, sort of, let's say, the Oronic and the Chthonic principles. And that holds true to geomancy as well, because there is astrological significance to geomancy. I haven't gotten that far ahead into it and mastered that portion of it, but there are astrological charts that you can do with geomancy. Not so much plotting your own astrology, but incorporating astrology into geomancy. So is this
Yeah, it's
house
going to
would be
be
ruled by Pluto and so forth.
that was going to be where one of the questions I was going to be taking this, because I was thinking, like, there's got to be the astrological, the cosmic current as well. And so, there's the astrological cycles of the planets, and they're going to have their own interface and interaction with the earth. And in a very real sense, there's that force that's coming in, and it's connecting with the earth and with the person. So like when we're doing a geomantic reading, it's not even just an interpretation of the earth energies, it's also an interpretation of the stellar cosmos, the energies of the planets and the astrological cycles and how those interface together in order to create the experience the person is having, and
Oh
the
yeah.
planet and everything else.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that even ties back into sort of the let's say the duality of, say, Zeus and Hades is a prime example where you would sit there and think, astrology, aka Zeus, is something that is completely separate from, say, like geomancy, Hades, something chthonic and of the earth would be something else. But there are some accounts in the mysteries that had said that Zeus and Hades are one and the same. So you would have Zeus Chthonios as the alternate name for Hades himself, which also puts a very interesting spin on the tale of Persephone.
Yeah. So I mean, and so we have that aspect as well. And I think
Yeah,
really, what's fascinating to me is then like really what we're learning how to do. It sounds like is connect very purposely with the currents of the Earth, the underworld, and the stellar cosmos, using geomancy as a very specific medium for that. And of
yeah.
course, there's the divinatory aspects, but I'm curious as well. In your studies, have you found that there's also been any like practical applications? By practical, let me be very clear. When I say practical application, I mean more along the lines of a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, I can use it for divination, but can I use this also to get results? That's when most people think. Now, I'm not always going to lean in on that, but I am going to in this case because I think it's kind of interesting to ask. And, it's okay if you don't have an answer.
Oh no, the practical aspect of geomancy is that it, like I said, it doesn't just give you the yes or no. It doesn't give you the, look out for a blonde haired stranger or one of those
Or a
type of
meteor.
readings. No, no, none of that. It's literally saying like, all right, this is what's going on in your house. This is what's going on with your parents. This is what's going on with your financial situation. Each one of the houses is going to have a different aspect to it. It pertains to that element of your life, and the tetragram that lands within that, that's going to say how it's being affected. So you would go through that for the 12 houses, and then you would have what they call the left judge and the right judge. One being these are all of the obstacles in your way. The other being this is what your inner momentum of. This is what is inspiring you. This is how you're going to best overcome these odds. And then finally, you'd go down to the judge, which would be the ultimate, unless it winds up being a little too cloudy. Then you can pull something out called the reconciler, which is going to be more pertaining to the house that your query was most about. And the judge, you would combine those two tetragrams to form the reconciler, which would be the sort of the tiebreaker, so to speak.
Okay. Now, for people who are on here live, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll mention again, if you have questions or comments, feel free to pop those in, and we're more than happy to answer them and explore them. I'm curious. Let's switch this over a little bit toward the personal. Why Portugal? What brought you to Portugal, and how does that relate to geomancy?
Well, let's see here. I would say that's been something that's been going on all throughout my life, and I've only managed to piece that together recently. Series of semi supernatural events happened in my youth, and started sort of altering the way that I dreamed. I was getting more sort of like hints about the future, not prophecies, but more sort of prognostications, um, messages, tutorage from sort of a wolf entity in my dreams. And at first, I thought nothing of it. I was just a creative child, but those progressed. And as I learned more about my practice, I started uncovering more about that. And we took a trip out to Portugal because we had a destination wedding, and it was like, let's go to two other cities, see what's out there. So we chose Copenhagen because it was the happiest place on earth, apparently. And just looked at the map and I said, let's go to Portugal. Nobody talks about Portugal. Let's see what's going on there. So we took the trip. we anticipated falling in love with Copenhagen and planning to move there. But when we got back, COVID hit shortly after. And despite us having a trip planned to go back to Copenhagen, we didn't make it that trip, but we couldn't get Portugal out of our minds. So we just kept going back. And we finally decided let's take the move there. So I started studying about the local flavor of paganism here and discovered the Lusitanian pantheon. Watched some videos by Arith Hager. Read some books by Andre Conscientia and Gilberto Lascarive, and I kind of came to realize that some of these entities were tied to those supernatural events, and I was like, maybe they have been calling me here all along. When I went to take a trip to Sintra, we went to, if you've ever been to Sintra, you've got to check it out. Absolutely magical little fairy book town, with castles and this giant manor that's tied to the Knights Templar and tarot mysticism. Um, it's magical, but going out there in those forests, I was just hit with so much natural energy. I mean, I could feel the power from the ley line, fey energy, residual energy from the Lusitanians themselves. It was astounding. I have never felt that tied to the earth or a place in my life. And that's when I took the name Arkadios Vasco and began on this journey.
It's awesome. I have been to Sintra. It's a very lovely place. Okay, we got a question here. With the mention of ley lines, I have a question. Does there need to be a planet for ley lines to exist, or could there be ley lines in space? I have my own thoughts on this, but I want to hear what yours are.
I mean, I would say as far as ley lines, that's usually tied to life, blood, life energy, be that of the ground below us, of those who have passed on, sort of ancestral energy, the natural wonder of the earth and life upon it itself. I would say that there could be on other planets based upon what life there is. So, I mean, they have found traces of bacterial life on Mars. They'd be fainter because there's, many more of them, but not quite as noticeable. But there could be a bit faint ley line to that. And on a actually inhabited planet, more so. Yes.
So my own take on this is a little bit different from yours, and it's based on some experiments and work that I did many years ago. Um, and what I did is I actually connected with what I'll call the lines of force between the planets, which was really what I considered ley lines. So what I think of as a ley line is there's definitely ley lines in the planets, right? But then there's also ley lines between the planets and the stars, and the planets and the stars themselves are living beings. They may not be living in the sense of like you and me, but are living nonetheless themselves. So the way that I kind of look at it is that there's definitely like a ley line between, for example, Saturn and Earth, and that brings its own energy, and that's one of the reasons why, like astrologically, we have the experience of Saturnian influence.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. That's the interesting thing when we think about it, right? And so, like with all these different planets and stars, now a lot of them are going to be very faint. Like stars far, far away, that's going to be a very faint ley line because it's just further and further out. But certainly within the solar system, we have that. So that's my take on it,
Yeah.
and based on my own
Interstellar
experience,
animism.
right? Interstellar animism. All right, and then we got a couple more questions. So
Oh,
let's see here. Do you think geomancy can adapt to urban environments without losing its soul? Ooh, good question. What's your thought?
I mean, there's still the earth below you. And
Right?
that's not going to lose its potency. It can it be polluted? Yes. Does it lose its vitality? Not so much, because no matter what damage that we do to this planet, it's going to shrug us off eventually, and it's going to replenish itself. It's done it before; it will do it again. So, if the Earth gets tired of our civilization on it, give it some time. It'll come back with full force.
Yeah, my own take on that is, I mean, because I get this question asked about nature spirits, like, can you find nature spirits in the environment, in like a city urban environment? And the answer is yes. Nature is all
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
just because you live in an urban environment doesn't mean that nature doesn't exist there. It's just that the expression of nature is different because of things. But again, at some point, nature will have its say. Like nothing
Yeah.
lasts forever, and for as long as this planet is alive, this planet will definitely outlast us. And I have a feeling it'll outlast us a lot longer than we will it. So I think
I
that
mean,
that's very, very integral to it. And it's interesting too, because one of the people said, I think it might get corrupted in horrible places like, for instance, Auschwitz. And I would agree that the memory of a place or the experience of an
yeah,
energy there could certainly affect it. And it's kind of similar to the idea of like the geni loci, like of a city or something like that. Like that's going to have
yeah,
its own influence, its own experience. And yet, at the same time, at a certain point, that gets transformed and transmutated. There's an alchemical process that's going on with these energies. And so
yeah,
the way they flow through us and experience us and the way they go through everything, inevitably there's some kind of transformation going on. And of course, some of it could be argued, well, these are certain unfortunate lessons that we have to learn about our own nature. And so that is
yeah,
a reminder of that. I went once to a place in York, PA. It was close to York, PA. It was Raymeyer's Hollow. A hex magician had been murdered there at the turn of the 20th century. And the energy there was definitely darker, per se, but I found that working with it was much more potent. His death had
yeah,
definitely imprinted on it. And yet at the same time, that energy was being transmuted and changed. It wasn't like his death. His death was a psychic echo that eventually was going to get thinner and thinner and less. Let's see
yeah.
here. We had a couple more. What role does personal intuition play versus traditional interpretation of the figures?
I would say that it's more concrete. I think that the geomancy is more concrete than, say, tarot or Lenormand. Even with I Ching is pretty concrete as well. But as far as the basic cartomancy methods, those are more interpretive. Scrying is definitely more interpretive. But I would say I Ching, geomancy, and pendulum work are going to be more tied into the binary, especially because of the dual nature of the tetragrams. Each line is going to be the result of it either being a one or a two. So that binary nature of it is going to make it a little more concrete as far as what the reading states.
Yeah, my beloved Sheena has this really amazing dowsing protocol that she came up with for class, and I was surprised at all the different things that she came up with for it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And yet it was very straightforward in a lot of ways. It was
Yeah.
just and I think that is in and of itself something that can be really handy for this kind of work. Then I want to talk a little bit about Monsanto since I've been there and you're living there. How cool is that?
Yeah, it is. It is. You can't see it because it's
Right.
midnight here, but yeah, there's a freeway separating us. We haven't gotten into the park as of yet because we're trying to track a walking course across the freeway. We haven't quite found it yet.
Okay, so you're close to it. But still, I
Close to
mean,
it, but
it's the city of boulders, for those of you who don't know. So it's this really interesting, fascinating place where literally it's like this mountain of boulders, and people have built their houses with the boulders integrated in, which, I mean, to me, it just seems like a very harmonious approach to nature.
yeah, yeah. What are you talking about? Monsanto's National Park? That's the one I was referring to.
Okay, no, I'm referring to the city of boulders. So,
Nope, nope. The national forest, Monsanto National Forest, is right across the street from me.
okay, well, when you get a chance, go to the city of boulders. It's in
I
eastern
will definitely
Portugal.
do that.
You probably find it very fascinating from a geomantic perspective.
Oh, that's gonna be one that's going on my list. The, Sanctuary at Sal Miguel de Mota is another one that I'm planning on going to. That's one of the last remaining shrines to Endovelcus. So there's a lot of spirituality out here. There's a lot of history. It's absolutely a remarkable place to be.
It is. I mean, I remember going to some of the ancient temples, and I thought that was really, really
Yeah.
fascinating. Okay, we
We-
got another. Oh, go on. You first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even within this city, we there's a street where they were doing some excavation work, and they were just trying to update the streets, but they wound up finding a Roman amphitheater underneath it. So they just fenced it off, said, "We don't need this road anymore. We're just going to leave this as a historic monument," and fenced it off so that the public can come in and see this amphitheater.
That's awesome. That's the right way to go. Okay, we got
Mhm.
a two-part question now.
Ooh,
In your view, what are the biggest misconceptions about geomancy in modern occult circles? We'll go with that one first, and I'll ask the other one. So go for it. What's the biggest misconceptions?
I would say when you say geomancy, you're thinking of like throwing stones or using crystals. It's not so much that; it's more of a blend of the subliminal and the earth below you. So it's almost as though you and the earth are sort of forming this direct link, sort of like a conduit, and it is speaking to you through your subliminal mind to generate those lines. So it is a partnership, very much a partnership when you're casting your lines to start your tetragrams.
Okay, and then the next question is: some say geomancy is an old world tool. Put around old world. That's why I did it. How do
It,
you
it,
see it thriving in our current age of digital magic?
I mean, anything can be updated. I mean, you can sit there and they have apps for geomancy where you're sitting there and tapping the little dots to sit there and make them disappear, and then it will generate your entire chart for you. I mean, the chemicals that are used in your screen. Well, I was looking for my phone to hold it up, but I'm talking to my phone, so never mind. But dude, the screen you're watching us through that is made out of glass, which is made from sand and other chemicals. That's of the earth itself. So whether we are talking about the earth underfoot, a piece of clay that you may have brought home from the beach, or the borosilicate glass in your phone, that is all of the earth. So it can speak through there as well. It just takes a new form. It's a new interface.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that like magic is something that we can connect with and update and work with over time.
Yeah,
Like it's not, my own magical practice. I've developed a number of different systems over the years, and a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, here's like modern principles of physics, space
yeah,
time stuff, or here's neuroscience, or here's other things. And I think the same thing applies. It's not like magic isn't meant to be static or frozen. It's meant to be an evolving practice, and we are part of that evolution, and we are also changed by that evolution. I think that's the important thing to remember that.
yeah. Alchemy began as sort of a way of trying to sort of distill the soul of man and promote self growth, and then it became the search for turning base metals into gold. So there's that philosophy gone to chemistry, and then gone into just our modern science as itself. Through the medicine, whether it be Eastern or Western medicine, it all came from a sense of alchemy. So it's a means of trying to improve yourself, and whether that be internally, emotionally, or physically. That's where that route came. So it all comes from evolving our magic practice into our new needs. But that doesn't lessen it. It just takes a new form.
So, if someone wants to learn geomancy, where would you recommend they start?
I would say, let's see here. Some good sources on that would be I always screw up his name. I always mix it up. John Michael Greer
Mhm.
wrote an excellent book on that called The Art and Practice of Geomancy. You can also, I'd say, check out if you want something more archaic and a little more pious. You can go to the fourth book of occult philosophy by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. But I would say for the modern practitioner, start with Greer. Greer is going to be a great starting line. You can also find some excellent resources on YouTube as well. And well, I have my articles that I've thrown out on my Substack, and as I continue to find ways to improve my writing and also checking for errors that I might have made along the way, those do get continuously updated. I just fixed one or two bugs on it this morning.
There you go. The mark of a true writer. You're always editing.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah, so it really isn't.
I'm like George Lucas that way. I just can't leave it alone.
No, so that's a good that's a great place to start. And then, I mean, I think in terms of the actual practice itself, like getting out there and doing it, because reading about it's
Yeah.
one thing, actually getting out there and doing it is another thing altogether. So, what does it look like when you're doing a geomantic practice, in terms of like, are you, for example, are you walking the earth, walking the land? Is this something that you do solitary? Or, or something where you're kind of like in a fixed location? What are some of the things that people might think about if they're going out there and they're actually starting to do the practice? They've read the books, but now they're
Yeah.
going to actually apply it.
I mean, it's one of those things that can be done any place, anywhere. As long as you have some sort of connection to the earth, whether you're outside, whether you can even like bring a box of dirt, just a short tray of dirt that's big enough for you to sit there and etch those dots into it with the stick. You can do it through a clay tablet. You can do throwing coins. You can do it with a pen and paper too. I mean, the ink in that pen is petrochemicals. That is straight of the earth. It's dinosaur bones, sweetie. Doesn't get more tied to the earth than that. Um, but as far as how it usually goes, I'll usually do a bit of a meditation on it. And depending on where I am, I'll either use the coin method, the pen method, or I will squill into the earth. Um, you create the four mothers. From there, generate the four daughters, and then the four nieces, the two witnesses, and then the judge, and just interpret the best I can. Like I said, you're going to have a question in your mind while you do it, or from the querent, if you're doing it for a friend. And after you do that, you'll take those, put those into the house chart, and interpret it into your reading. And you'll have sorry, ADHD is a thing. I don't have all of this memorized. I'm still one of those guys who still checks the guide. So yeah, you're gonna have your 12 different houses, and one is gonna tie into your life. Another one will tie into more of the material. Another one will tie into, they call it brothers, but that can mean, close friends, comrades, coven mates, whatever you want to call it. And then there's the father, which would be pretty much, any patriarchal individual with some authority over you. Sons, which could be your children. You could go into your health, your spouse, death itself, journeys and travel, government, your fortune, and also the carcer, which is prison or anything that's sort of holding you back. It can be something internal. That can be something societal. It could be something that's just not letting you press forward. But you look through all of those and see what tetragram has gone into it, and it will help to see where you're going with that.
Excellent. Yeah. Something I am curious about, because I actually do a lot of walking the land when I'm in an
Yeah.
area. Love to walk. I love to walk the streets. I love to walk the area. And sometimes I will do moving ritual. And what I like to do is incorporate kind of the pulse, the energy of the earth with that, and just kind of get to know the energy of the land that way. Is that something that you do in your practice at all? And if so, what does that look like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, back when I was still living in Seattle, there was a just this little park near the Japanese gardens. I would just go back to this back way, and nobody ever walked through that area because they just go to the Japanese garden, ignore these woods. I'd go out there, I would meditate, I would sit there and do sometimes do a geomantic reading whenever I was dealing with something with the client. I was like, how can I help them overcome this situation that they're going through? And I would usually get a fairly accurate reading on that. I would go back to the client and I was like, so are you feeling that this is what's holding you back? And they're like, yeah, kind of. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. And it would be something that would help to open that up. But I would use that forest over there. Through my own neighborhood, there were a lot of parks nearby. So I was able to go to those. And since coming here, granted, a lot of Portugal is very urbanized, but there are a lot of green spaces. So I've been able to take advantage of those as well. And still looking at Monsanto out there. I want to get across that freeway. Just need to figure out where the best place to cut across is.
Well, now you got motivation to do it. Like, I'd say
I've had
go
a
out there
lot
and
of
do it tomorrow.
motivation. Just been staying up too late to sit there and make an early start of it. But that's
Yeah.
coming.
No, I mean, it's so. If you do get to visit the city of boulders, and I'm sure you will, um, I highly recommend like going further up. Like there is this really interesting grove in there that you'll find at some point. You'll have to kind of go off a little bit off the beaten path. It's like such
Yeah.
a beautiful space to just be in there and experiencing. I want to go back there someday with my beloved, and go there because it's such a beautiful space. Speaking of my beloved, she asked, "Do you ever bring your body or somatic experience into your geomagnetic readings? If so, what is your process?"
I haven't.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
going,
good at
I'm
so
going to
good at
be.
asking the tough questions. She's so good at asking the tough questions. She does that to me all the time. So hey, welcome to that. She's such a
No,
magical in a way.
I haven't. I honestly, I haven't. Like I said, it's as far as incorporating things of that nature. I'm still trying to figure out the astrology aspect. I haven't even gotten into that. But I would love to pick your brain about that on ways to do so. That would be that would be beneficial. I would love to hear that.
Well, there we go. Well, I'll just share some thoughts on that. I mean, just for example, my question about
Yeah,
walking the land is a great one because it's really about getting into the felt experience of
yeah,
walking the land and connecting with your body to nature and to the
yeah,
experience of the land as it's like and what it's telling you. One example I'll use because I'm up here visiting her in Castlegar, Canada. Is there's this beautiful labyrinth that we go to that's near the park nearby, and every time we walk the path there, it's kind of like me about tuning into the Columbia, tuning into the land there, tuning into the labyrinth itself, and allowing that to kind of work its way into my body, and allowing myself to really receive the land and letting the land receive me. It's a very powerful experience, and I've done that before. Like I live down in Eugene, Oregon most of the time,
yeah,
and I do that, and I've done it down there, and I've also done it with just the Columbia further down, like in Oregon. It's tapping into that energy of and kind of connecting like how does this impact or affect me
yeah,
bodily? Like what are the sensations and experiences that are coming up? And there's actually a couple of really good books by a guy named David Abram. For those of you who are watching, I recommend. One of them is what is it? It's the sensual. I'm not going to be able to look it up right now because I'm on the phone here with you. But I'll put it in the post. I'll put it in the post
yeah,
for people. But it's a really good book that explores kind of the connection between language and the earth and everything else, and actually talks about how language removes us from the earth. It was like the sensual nature or something like that. Yeah, the nature of the sensuous. But anyway, I'll put the book in there so
yeah.
people can. It's a really good book. I highly recommend it because he gets into some very interesting practices that I think would tap directly into what you're looking into.
No, as far as feeling in tune with the earth, that
For the senses.
absolutely. I may have misinterpreted the question there for a moment there. Processing. But like I said, like as far as like when I was walking through Sintra and the forest in Sintra, definitely felt that overwhelming energy and felt that connection. It's I don't know if I would say that it was magnetic, but it did feel almost like a push or a pull in a lot of ways, being drawn one direction or not the next. It almost like my internal compass was
Hmm.
going into overdrive and just guiding me through these forests and wound up coming across, some old stone structures that had not been seen for centuries. It was absolutely amazing. Um, but yeah, I've always felt that natural attunement, but I haven't figured out the way to necessarily bring it into the geomancy because usually when those moments happen, I become very, very mobile. And with geomancy, it's going to be a very stationary practice because you're going to have to etch that into the ground. So as far as being able to do that, I haven't really found a way to sort of marry those, at least from my personal experience, because like I said, I become an autopilot when I'm feeling that type of, terrestrial energies.
I wonder if incorporating some form of like moving meditation, like Qigong or anything like that, would help with that process. That would probably be the direction I would lean into.
That could definitely, because while that is a mobile, it is also very grounding at the same time because you are pulling in of the earth itself. You are expelling into the ether itself. It's essentially you are becoming much akin to a tree itself, where you're drawing
Yeah.
in from the earth and expelling out into the air.
Yeah. I think that would probably be that would probably be the way to go with it, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be the approach that I would take anyway, just based on my own experience with that kind of work. Um, Yeah, and I did remember. I think it was the nature of the century. So I'm going to put the book in anyway. We're going to have like at the for people later on. We're going to have this. This will come out in a little while, like tomorrow, and it'll have some books. I'll have like a books referenced, including the John Michael Greer book. But also I'll mention the David Abram stuff, so that way people can check that out.
Yeah, I'll send you a whole little bibliography. It'll be great.
Yeah, there you go. So perfect. So, where do you see your practice going? I mean, you're very much in the learning stage. If we were to chart the future for you,
Um, my next venture is actually I plan on writing more articles about the Lusitanian pantheon. I've already done one on Endovelicus, who is the most approachable, and that's the one that has the most resources in English. The rest of them are kind of locked away behind the Portuguese language. So I am going to have to get more fluent, more literate in the Portuguese language so that I can dive through those books and find a way to bring that pantheon to the English speaking world. And I've just found it to be absolutely fascinating. I mean, between Endovelicus being a chthonic underworld entity of death, rebirth, renewal, medicine, um, and prophetic dreams, as well as in some accounts, I haven't been able to prove or disprove this, but also some accounts say that he was also a solar entity. So you have both the Oronic and the Chthonic within one entity. That's fascinating to me. Um, Various other, they even had sort of the god of dogs, Quangio, which I find that refreshing myself to know that there's one for the dogs too.
that's really
Bora,
cool.
yeah, Boromanikus, the god of thermal waters, Kosis, who's a war entity, but he's not so much the god of war, but the god of brotherhood amongst the soldiers. That sense of unity and watching out for one another. I think that's so much more of an interesting concept than just, a war god being just tied to nothing but the bloodshed, but for looking out for those around you. It's beautiful.
I love it. Wolf shared a practice that he does. I find lying on my back on the flat ground or lawn makes me feel like I can feel the whole earth, the whole world beneath me. And it says it's a
Mhm.
great way to connect. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, whether it's a grassy field or just laying on the dirt itself, you're going to be tied to that. Um, I remember when I was young, I would whenever I was having a bad day, I would go straight to this orchard, this little mini apple orchard on the side of the hill on the property right next to our parents' house, because there was a large patch of moss that would grow on the side of that hill. And I would kick off my shoes and I would just stand in that moss barefoot. And I tell you what, it was the most soothing sensation.
Hmm.
It didn't matter what kind of a bad day I had. I'd sit there, kick off my shoes, stand in that moss barefoot, and just space out, breathe, relax. And I felt all of the stress of the day just wash out of me, Very soothing.
I start my days, I get up and I stretch and I exercise. And one of the things I like to do is go out onto the lawn, whether it's my front lawn or in the case of visiting my beloved, her backyard. And I'll go barefooted and practice kung fu. And it's so neat to just feel that to feel the earth on my feet and to do the movements and to practice and just to really connect with the earth in such a beautiful, powerful way and just feel that on my feet. And so natural. And I think like so often we divorce ourselves from that, but it's so
Yeah.
necessary. So I love doing that. It's really healing and grounding and empowering and just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So
I've just recently I've started connecting with my own body, as it were, and I've actually going out and dancing. This is something I had never done before, and now I'm just sitting there thinking of all the ways that I want to engage and that sort of physical expression. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know, maybe I'll take up like probably not martial arts because, please not the face, but but possibly, something like some form of dance, like flamenco or belly dancing or something like that, to sit there and just go out there and be able to do that. And I think engaging with that out in the forest would be absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You're tying in your own native primal energy to that of the earth around you. You
I
couldn't
will
ask
say
for a
that
greater level of connectivity.
there you go. I will say that if you do get into martial arts, it'll actually help you make sure that please not the face becomes yes, definitely not the face.
You haven't seen my level of coordination. I am a hot mess.
Hey, all I'll say is that it's anyone can get better at it. It's just about repetition and practice. I mean, that's
Oh,
something I can speak to
oh
myself
yeah.
because it's
Oh
an
yeah.
experience I've had. So we've had a couple of other people share some things. So I'm just going to share them their comments.
Mm,
For me, one of mine is going to my mother tree and literally wrapping my arms around her. She's a willow tree, and I just let everything out. And another one is as I am learning to love myself with the changes I am making, I am reconnecting to nature, to the wind. Good. Being an air sign, and I'm finding myself again after many years of feeling lost. That's amazing, Pup
yeah.
Morningstar. And Joe said, for me, it's going out onto the roof balcony, which is made of stone, or into the floor of my building on the first floor and sitting with the trees and the stone statues. Oh, amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking with some of my friends and they, were sharing their stories. Like, I have one friend who sits there, goes off to this park, and there's just this one tree. This one tree, it's like he said, this tree's been dead for years, but it still stands there. And there's something about it that just feels comforting to me. And I'm like, it's part of the history. It's become part of the earth itself. Yes, it's going to be. Another friend was watching the puddles on the roof of where they work, and, like, if you watch the wind blow across this water, it forms those ripples. I mean, this is a form of divination and stuff like that. That's another form of geomancy. It's because like even with I Ching, that's technically a form of geomancy. So just because I'm promoting one doesn't mean that there's not others. I mean, you can find your own path on this, your own language that speaks to you too. It's all about your personal connection.
There you go. So, this has been wonderful. And for those of you who come on here, first of all, thank you for coming here and watching us as we've interviewed live. And I agree, Arkadios, you killed it. You've more than that. You destroyed it. That's all I'm trying to do. He's killing it.
No.
No, he's doing more than that. He's destroying it.
But I'm a
Well, I mean,
pacifist.
I like to think that actually making a great interview as opposed to killing or destroying it. But,
No. We're birthing this interview. We're bringing life into the universe. It's beautiful.
That's right. We're creating here, people.
That's the goal.
But I want to thank everyone who came on here live. And before you go, for those of you who might not be familiar with you, like where can they find you on the web?
You can find me through my Substack as well. Yeah, I have a fledgling YouTube account, which I need to get back to making videos for. I have one video that actually has lighting and two that are just poorly lit hot messes, but I'm getting there. But for right now, the Substack.
All right, great. And we'll have that in the show notes as well for people. And then I always like to ask my guests one last question, which is there a final word of wisdom or phrase that you can give us that we can carry with us into the rest of this week?
I would say there's words of wisdom that came to me within a dream, which I was confronted by my child self. And these words apply to everyone, not just to me. I don't think this is a personalized message, but it applies to everyone. But my child self said to me, no one can stop me. No one can stand in my way except for you, because you're the only one that's strong enough. And I think that is true for all of us. So believe in yourself, keep pushing yourself forward, and get out of your way. Get out of your own way and make it happen. You can do it.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Actually, it's kind of interesting because over on my other Substack, Men's Mysteries, I recently did a thing about rechilding your inner child instead of just reparenting. It's like, oh, we reparent the inner child, right? But what about rechilding that child and actually giving that child the opportunity to be the child he or she didn't get to be?
When they were talk about that, because I definitely got a second dose of childhood in my 30s. So yeah, got the childhood that I never got to have, and here I am embracing
There
life.
you go. You get to play all day and all night. There you go. That's awesome. Well, Arkadios, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for being open to doing this interview. It's been awesome, and it'll be shared out here in the next tomorrow, and then you'll have your own version of it to share down the line. And again, thank you for everyone who joined. It was fun.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So good at this.
We are. All right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.